UCLA football is about to join the Big Ten. Will Bruins head coach Chip Kelly be with them? I don't think so. Locked On Big Ten starts right now.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Streeman. Thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. We always appreciate our visits. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and, of course, on YouTube. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers, join today, and you'll get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. So visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn and get started. We're going to take a closer look at UCLA Bruins head coach Chip Kelly and why he's trying to get out of there. We'll talk a little bit more about the Big Ten, SEC grouping, alliance, whatever you want to call it. Plus, Caitlyn Clark gets a step closer to the record, and we'll have our Big Ten basketball picks at the end. Hang on for that. Be sure to subscribe right now. It's free, and follow Locked On Big Ten for free wherever you get your podcast. That way, you'll get the latest episode of this podcast as soon as it becomes available each and every day. All right, let's get into it here. UCLA football, they're about 7 months away from playing their first Big Ten football game, and spring football is right around the corner. It's a very pivotal time in the history of Bruins football. But the big question is, will their current head coach Chip Kelly be with the team when UCLA starts play this fall, Big Ten play? And if not, why? What's going on here? And why are we bringing up this question? Well, listen, Kelly has been at UCLA for 6 years. He's largely flown under the radar during this time. He seems to be trying like gangbusters to get out of there. He's been actively seeking other jobs, and not head coaching jobs. He's been seeking job interviews for offensive coordinator jobs around the NFL. In fact, he reportedly interviewed with the Raiders twice, failed to get that gig. He has been tied to interest with Washington Commanders before head coach Dan Quinn went ahead with Cliff Kingsbury as offensive coordinator, so he didn't get that gig. Not to be stopped, not to be daunted. He's now interviewed for the offensive coordinator position with the Seattle Seahawks and new head coach Mike McDaniel. He's making the rounds with like 10% of the league. That interview, by the way, took place on Tuesday night. Well, what was Tuesday night? That was the day before the signing period for high school recruits. Kind of an odd time for your head coach to be looking for other jobs when he maybe could be on the phones, banging some last-second recruiting. So the big question is why? What is really going on here? So let's explore this just a little bit. After some failed attempts to be a head coach in the NFL with the Eagles and the 49ers, Kelly landed nicely at a prestigious school in Southern California to the tune of $6 million a year. And he's under contract through 2027. So he's got some stability. He's got money. It's all good. And a lot of sunshine. Who walks away from that to be a coordinator in the NFL for maybe a couple $1,000,000 a year? Is he tired of the UCLA administration? Or is he tired of what college football is quickly becoming, which kind of seems to be the trend? Is he tired of spending time dealing with the transfer portal? Is he tired of trying to scrape up money for name, image, and likeness issues instead of coaching football? At big schools, being a head coach is becoming less and less about coaching and more about becoming a CEO or a general manager of a program. My guess, this is the heart of the issue for Kelly. This is what he's tired of, all this extra stuff. He's getting away from coaching. He likes to be an offensive genius. He likes to game plan, coach, practice, all that kind of stuff. Head coaches are spending less and less time there. So, and being a coordinator allows you to pretty much do just those things, just coach and game plan. And Boston College coach Jeff Hafley, he left to become a defensive coordinator for the Packers. And that's exactly what he said. He says, man, all this other stuff going on, I don't want to do it anymore. Just want to coach. Don't want to have all the other responsibility. And again, I think that's becoming a bit of a trend. I'm convinced that these changes were the reason that Nick Saban suddenly retired at Alabama. I thought he would have gone a couple more years. Ryan Day has had to give up offensive duties at Ohio State. And I'm sure it was on the long list of reasons that Jim Harbaugh decided to go back to the NFL. So Chip Kelly's term at UCLA, it's been a little bit unremarkable in 6 years, right? Literally, he has an overall record of 35-34. His Pac-12 record is also 500. He's 26-26. But he is regarded as a good offensive mind. A lot of people are very impressed with him. And he's had some success there. And he's known as the offensive guru, kind of. Back in the day, though, at Oregon, let's not forget, he was 46-7 there as Oregon's football coach. You know, that record is what got him 2 shots in the NFL as a head coach. And a lot of people were impressed by it. Now, given Kelly's offensive prowess, if he lands the Seattle offensive coordinator head job, he would presumably be teamed with Geno Smith. At least for now, Geno Smith is the quarterback. Who knows what they're going to do here in free agency and or the draft, but Geno Smith is a guy that Chip Kelly once tried to recruit back in the day, back in Oregon. Plus, he would have some weapons like Kenneth Walker III and DK Metcalf. Here's the thing, though. What if he doesn't get the job? Jobs are filling up fast around the NFL. There's not a lot that are open right now. Does he still come back for another year at UCLA? Would UCLA want a guy whose heart isn't into the job to be coaching their team? Would Kelly resign or walk away from all that money? I don't know. I really don't know. I think it's a bizarre situation, and it's going to be weird when he comes back, if he comes back. You know, and then again, if he's not the coach, who's going to lead the Bruins into their first ever Big Ten season? I think it's a great time to be a head coach of the Pac-12. Now going into the Big Ten, I think it's exciting. But if he doesn't come back, Chip Kelly made some interesting moves here just this last week with his own staff. He promoted several members of his current staff, offensive line coach Tim Drebno and wide receiver coach Jerry Neuheisel. Everybody knows the name Neuheisel there at UCLA. They're now both co-offensive coordinators. Now, if Kelly's there, he's really the offensive coordinator, and it's title only for those other guys. But if he's not there, now what? Defensive coordinator Danton Lynn left to go across town last week to go be the coordinator at USC, and Akeke Malo, he's going to fill that spot. So a lot's going on right now with the UCLA Bruins, and it's a weird situation. So I'd love your opinion on it too. The Bruins, their first official game in the Big Ten, by the way, is at home at the Rose Bowl. They take on the Indiana Hoosiers. Being an Indiana grad, I've never seen my Hoosiers at the Rose Bowl. So I'm looking forward to that game. But their first road game of the conference is October 5th at Penn State. And it's coming fast and furious. And like I said, spring football is right around the corner. I just think this is a trend, and I don't think it's going to stop this year, next year, whatever. I think you're going to see more and more coaches looking to get out into different roles where they can just kind of concentrate. Not everybody's not going to do it. Some guys are built for it. Some guys can handle it. You know, Ryan Day can handle it at Ohio State, but he's having to delegate, right? To give the offense to somebody else. Chip Kelly wants to coach offense. That's his thing. Maybe, looking to get another job as offensive coordinator somewhere. So a lot of this stuff is going on around college football in general. And I don't know if it's going to be the norm. Look, these are still very high-paying, high-profile, very cool jobs. But some guys have been at it a while. And if you already have enough money in the bank, that means you have the freedom to do what you want. And if that helps you enjoy life more, I think that's where Chip Kelly's at right now. Love to hear from you, UCLA Bruins. We've gotten a lot of new listeners from the West Coast. I could tell by the comments on YouTube, Oregon, Washington, USC, UCLA. And we spent a lot of time on those 4 teams this week, kind of getting ready for what's coming up in the Big Ten with those schools. So I know they're not officially in the Big Ten yet, but everything that's happening right now, coaching decisions, recruiting, transfer portal, this all come into play in the Big Ten. So we're starting to talk about this stuff more and more, and going to move forward like those 4 schools are in the Big Ten right now. Anytime any news happens over there, we're going to jump on it and talk about it. So anyway, would love your opinion on it. You can hit me up at Twitter or X at TalkBig10 10. Also our website, you see the scroll on the bottom, talkbig10 10.com. And by the way, you get your Big Ten swag, shirts, pennants, hats there as well. And all of our podcasts are there at talkbig10.com as well. Everyone we've ever done, and they're grouped by school or team. If you want to just go to your certain area, something we talked about on a particular day. Meanwhile, moving forward, what is this new Big Ten, SEC, whatever you want to call it? They don't like to call it alliance, but their meetings. What does it really mean? Get some more thoughts on that. Greg Swanky talked about it, the commissioner of the SEC. Have some thoughts on that. Caitlyn Clark getting closer to the all-time scoring mark. We got all that coming up right here on Locked On Big Ten. Happy Super Bowl weekend to all of you as we celebrate the great game. And we can do it with FanDuel, right? FanDuel is America's #1 sports book. And we always are proud to have them with us here and talk about them. They're a lot of fun here during the games. You can sit here and have all these prop bets in addition to doing the game itself, Super Bowl 58. I believe it's still San Francisco -2 last time I checked, but you can do all the prop bets, the color of the Gatorade dumped on the coach, the flip of the coach. People are betting heads or tails, right? Just why not? Heads or tails. Put it out there. All these kind of things you can bet. How long is the national anthem going to be? I told you, Reba McEntire. I did some research. I think it's the over-under is 1:26 and a half. Take the under. Did some research. She did a World Series before. It was like 1:19. Just throwing it out there. Some good advice for you. It's all there. All the prop bets on FanDuel. And new customers, join today, and you'll get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel. FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. I want to thank each and every one of you for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen each and every day, especially you everydayers out there. Thank you. Spread the word. Find a Big Ten alum friend and tell them about us. Meanwhile, be sure to subscribe down below. It's free. It's easy. It's quick. Just one little click on YouTube. You can share and follow and like Locked On Big Ten, your team every day. So Thursday night, kick back, watch some Caitlyn Clark and Iowa as the Hawkeyes defeated Penn State. 111-93, quite the offensive display, but it was actually sophomore Hannah Stolke that led the way with a career high 47 points. Clark was doing a lot of distributing. She did score 27. That means she's now 39 points away from the NCAA Women's all-time scoring mark. 39 points away. She averages 32 points per game. Might get close here on Sunday, or actually get it. Iowa plays at Nebraska Sunday afternoon. It's a nationally televised game on Fox at 1 o'clock Eastern. I'm going to be checking it out. Of course, the national TV audience and the networks and everybody would love her to break the record this Sunday. And I know you don't want to massage or finesse when you try and break a record because anything can happen. You don't want to get hurt, any of that kind of stuff. But let me just throw out a couple thoughts there. Because her next chance, if she doesn't get it Sunday on the road at Nebraska, would be at home Thursday against Michigan. Plus, if she breaks the record on Sunday, that's Super Bowl Sunday. She might not get as much press as she deserves for this mark. So, look, we're rooting for her either way. If it comes Sunday, great. If it's next Thursday, awesome. But we'll be all over it. It's a big, big deal. All right, back to football for a minute. It looks like former Ravens and Giants defensive coordinator Wink Martindale going to be the new defensive coordinator at Michigan. And he's replacing Jesse Minter, who, of course, left to join Jim Harbaugh with the Chargers out in Los Angeles. Of course, Martindale and the Harbaughs all know each other very well. Martindale spent many years with John Harbaugh with the Ravens. And so I think that's a good get by the Michigan Wolverines. Wink Martindale, Jesse Minter, these guys all use the same terminology, the same philosophy. So should be a simple transition, I think, for the Michigan football players on defense. All right. A couple of days ago, Locked On Big Ten here, we talked about the new partnership. Is that what we're calling it? Between the Big Ten and the SEC. And this is a group of conference presidents and athletic directors who are going to put their heads together, try and figure out the best way to navigate the ever-changing landscape of college athletics. Not part of this group is the NCAA. Not part of the deal. It is the opinion of many, including me here at Locked On Big Ten, that this is a significant but early precursor to a day when the Big Ten and the SEC form some sort of super conference or super conferences. Maybe they play by their own rules. Maybe even depending on how big or how many schools are included when expansion is done and movement is done. Maybe they host their own playoff. Maybe say we don't need the rest, whatever. Everything aside from the NCAA. Now, the NCAA, as you know, or maybe you don't share the same opinion as me. I've been very opinionated about this. I think the NCAA is an impotent organization. For years, they have not been proactive. They have failed to be proactive with all the changes in college athletics coming down the pike, and they've neutered themselves as insignificant. They really are. All they seem to do now is like investigate this or investigate that, and that's about all they do. Okay. The Big Ten and the SEC, they're the opposite. They're the big dogs in the park, and there's a lot of money to be made, and it's a lot of money at stake. And they don't want the NCAA to screw it up, frankly. And it seems the conferences want to take control of their own destiny. Can you blame them? No. However, SEC Commissioner Greg Swanky, he said this week that this new strategic partnership, is what we're calling it, is not an effort to circumvent the NCAA. He says the conferences want to help the NCAA, want to help them streamline solutions to all these challenges facing college football and college athletics when it comes to playoffs and portals and NIL. Okay. Now, Swanky reiterated that this is not about the NCAA. He said, we just need a healthy national governing body. Look, he's right about those last two things. But I just have a different interpretation of what he's actually saying, right? How about you? Love to hear your comments about it on Twitter or, of course, on YouTube as well. Hey, winding down the week, it was a big week in college football. Signing period for recruits open back up this week for the second round, of course. Ohio State, the Buckeyes, Julian Sayin, it's official, the Alabama flip. And, of course, they signed Aaron Nolan, the other five-star quarterback, back in December. They also flipped former Washington defensive lineman commit Dominic Kirks, along with five-star Edric Houston from December's signing period. And, of course, Eric Mensah and the Buckeyes have shored up the defensive line and quarterback. And Ryan Day is really doing a good job recruiting and portal and everything he's trying to do. We'll wait and see what happens with the Bill O'Brien situation. And the word on the street is the 2025 class looks phenomenal for the Buckeyes. So things are going well there as well. Anytime we talk recruiting here, it's brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. These days, every new potential hire could feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. Terms and conditions apply. Speaking of Ohio State, cool story. I know this happens a lot, but I actually read this specific case here, how Houston Texans quarterback and former Ohio State quarterback, C.J. Stroud, who had a phenomenal year in the NFL this year, he's been donating to a NIL, name, image, and likeness collective for the Ohio State Buckeyes, give a little back to the university. Don't know the amount he gave, but he is listed as a platinum member, and that's a minimum of $50,000. So somewhere between $50,000 and $100,000 going back to the Buckeyes to help out the cause. Thought it was worth mentioning. Very cool. In the meantime, something else is very cool. In addition to checking out Locked On Big Ten, Locked On, the whole family of networks, has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. It's called Locked On Sports Today. And it's here for you 24/7. It covers the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows. And this show appears on there as well as all, it just rotates new stuff every half hour. Put our show on there, breaking news story, other stuff. It's always up there. So go to Locked On Sports Today after you're done here and check it out. The first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. All right. We are going into the weekend. Look, it's Super Bowl weekend. It's going to take a lot of our attention and focus, but there's a full slate of Big Ten basketball games going on. And if you're new to the program, we always close out the week with our picks. Football, the pigskin picks, basketball season, Big Ten basketball. By the way, I went 7-0 last week. So if you're looking for a tip, go back to FanDuel. Check it out. All right, I'll have those for you in just 1 minute right here. See what I think of your team this weekend on Locked On Big Ten. All right, it is time for our pigskin. No, I said pigskin picks. I'm thinking football. Time for our basketball picks. I will have a Super Bowl pick for you here in just a second. I'm gonna put this on screen, so check it out. And if you're on audio only, we'll describe what is going on. So a lot again, 7-0 last week, right? Let's see if we can do it again. And we'll start it off with number 11, Wisconsin, on the road at Rutgers. And that is at 12 o'clock noon on Saturday on the Big Ten Network. Now, Wisconsin is good. They're ranked. They're going to make the NCAA tournament. They had a couple bumps in the road here recently. Lost at Michigan on Wednesday. A little bit surprised by that one because that was Michigan's second win since December. They had the loss to Purdue. That was tough in their own building. That was last Sunday. They lost at Nebraska. So they've had a couple of hiccups here. And Michigan, I don't know what that was. That was an anomaly. But Purdue and Nebraska at Nebraska, those are tough places to play. Anyway, I'm going to take Wisconsin to bounce back here and beat Rutgers on Saturday afternoon. But I would expect a lower scoring game there because Rutgers is going to play. I'm not saying this is an easy win for Wisconsin. Not by any stretch. Going into Rutgers is tough for everybody. Number 10, Illinois is at Michigan State. That's at 2 o'clock on CBS Eastern time. Illinois coming off wins over Nebraska and Ohio State recently. Michigan State had a tough loss at Minnesota on Tuesday, and I will take the Fighting Illini, but again, tough place to play at Michigan State, but I think the Fighting Illini win that game. Michigan coming off that win over Wisconsin. By the way, that win on Wednesday was Juwan Howard's 51st birthday. He needed it, man. He really, really needed it. Michigan is at Nebraska, as I have told you all season long. This is becoming, if not one of the toughest places to play in the Big Ten at Nebraska. This is 6:30 Eastern time Saturday on the Big Ten Network. And Nebraska had the 12-point loss at Northwestern on Wednesday, 3-point loss at Illinois, but big win against Wisconsin last week. I'm gonna take Nebraska on this one. Nebraska, like I said, tough at home. Michigan struggling. I'm gonna give Nebraska this one all the way. Indiana and Purdue, the rivalry. Purdue at home, Mackey Arena, number 2 in the country. This is Saturday, 8 o'clock Eastern on Fox. Indiana was down, 18 against Ohio State this week and won. However, the last time they played Purdue at Bloomington this season, they were crushed by Purdue by 21 points. Last year, the Hoosiers got the sweep, so they can go into Mackey, but that's going to be tough. And Purdue wins over Wisconsin and Northwestern recently, so they've been playing really, really well. Penn State is at Northwestern. That is at 1 o'clock Sunday on the Big Ten Network. Penn State, they just came off their game against Iowa. Big road wins against Rutgers and Indiana. In fact, they won in Indiana for the first time in 10 years recently. Northwestern, solid road win over Nebraska on Wednesday after crushing losses in overtime to Purdue and Minnesota. And they just ran out of gas at the end. We've talked about this a lot, but Northwestern's a very good team. I like Northwestern in this one at home for a nice bounce back game against Penn State. And then Minnesota is at Iowa Sunday, 3 o'clock, Big Ten Network. And of course, Iowa beat the Gophers by 9 at Minnesota back in mid-January. So here's the rematch at Iowa. I do like the Hawkeyes in this one. And then finally, I'll give you my Super Bowl pick. The 49ers and the Chiefs. 49ers are 2-point favorites, courtesy of our friends at FanDuel. 6:30 CBS. I like the Chiefs. They're starting to put together. And this is, look, I'm not going to besmirch the 49ers at all. They got a lot of weapons. Everything's great. But at the end of the day, do I like Patrick Mahomes or Brock Purdy better? And I just think Patrick Mahomes will find a way to get him to the finish line and get a Super Bowl. Anyway, that's my thought. Feel free to agree or disagree. Hit me up with the comments on Twitter and or YouTube as well. So there you have it. Those are our picks going into the weekend. Enjoy your weekend with the basketball on Saturday and early Sunday and Caitlyn Clark on Sunday. And that gets you right into the Super Bowl and you're good to go. Hope you enjoy all of it. Enjoyed this as well. If again, there are many ways for you to get a hold of me. Would love to hear from you. And first of all, you can catch us on Twitter or X, as you like to call it, at Talk Big Ten number 10. The website you see on the bottom, talkbig10number10.com. Go there for all of our archive podcasts. Buy yourself some merchandise, Big Ten shirts, hats, pennants, all that stuff. Got it right there at your fingertips. And just hit us up there again at talkbig10.com. And of course, the comments on YouTube. And I'm going to be flipping through there this weekend. So hit me up. Always enjoy the friendly chatter, trash talk between the schools going back and forth. Again, and thank you for if you're on the West Coast with either Oregon, Washington, USC, or UCLA fans that are kind of new to us. Seen a lot of you guys up there, and a little trash talking back and forth is always fun. So always appreciate that in the comments. In the meantime, no matter what you do, where you are, if you could help us out and subscribe, just click it on down below, and it's free. It's one click, and that's it. That gets you in our Big Ten club moving forward. And glad to have you, all of you. And tell your friends about us. Subscribe and follow this podcast right now on your favorite podcast app. And you'll get the latest episode of this Locked On Big Ten podcast as soon as it's available each and every day. Usually, we are audio only is available at 4 a.m. Eastern time, and then the video out at 6 p.m. or 6 a.m. rather, 6 a.m. on YouTube. Don't forget also that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, Locked On Sports Today. It's here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every single league. Got them all the teams. Go to Locked On Sports Today, and that's on YouTube, and subscribe there after you subscribe here. So Locked On Big Ten, and then you can also do Locked On Sports Today, the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. That'll do it. It's a lot going on here, a lot going on with Big Ten. Over the weekend, we're going to be keeping our eyes on the Chip Kelly situation and the Bill O'Brien situation at Ohio State and Boston College. We'll see if there's some coaches on the move, and then we'll have the Super Bowl. We'll be back on Monday with a brand new podcast ready to go for a whole nother week. Can't wait to talk to you again. Thank you for joining us here. Enjoy yourself. I'm Craig Sheeman for Locked On Big Ten.